during the Essen preview, when can we order, and yeah, that's also explained. And what will the starter box include? We explained that earlier.
The past, and on top of that there is a lever so we need to making sure that everything is out.
When can we expect rules to go public?
I would say January.
You gotta be faster than that.
Hello everyone, today we're going to take a full analysis of the cards of units in Starcraft the tabletop miniature game. Now, we've seen some demo cards floating around that are from the Spiel in Essen, and this Hydralist card from the recent AMA that Archon Studios did. So we got the obvious things, you know, it's a Hydralist, the name, we got tags in the lower left corner, which is representative of what is in Starcraft. Most of these tags are for damage calculation. You know, fire bats do more damage against light and so on. There's also a tag for the faction. One thing of note is that there is a tag called ground, which means we have air units as well, which cannot be attacked by every single unit, because obviously those zealots can't attack sky units with their blades. Obviously. In the top right corner, we have a very interesting choice of words called supply. In Starcraft, if you run out of supply, you cannot field more units until you increase that limit. Now, you don't need to construct additional
Pylons. 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 Pylons.
in the tabletop miniature game, but as part of every wargame, you need to write an army list beforehand, which determines what you can field. And unlike other miniature wargames, you cannot directly put everything on the table at once. You are bound to a certain supply limit, which is determined by the match size. Now, this supply limit is basically a point limit, as in every other wargame. Next to that, we have the squad size, aka the models that are on the field. Now, there are two numbers here, one is in red and one is in white. The white ones belong together and the red ones belong together, which means you get 2 Hydralisks for 2 supply, or you get 4 Hydralisks for 3 supply. Then we have the typical unit stats. Speed, which is the movement range. Evade, which determines if a unit hit, in this case a roll of 5 or more, will hit the unit. Armor, which determines if the damage actually gets through. A roll of 5 or more determines a wound, a damage. And wounds, which is basically how much life points this unit has until it loses a model. And then there's size, which isn't exactly clear. They said everything will have a 32mm scale, but it could possibly be that smaller units have a smaller base, 28mm. For instance, and bigger units have a bigger size, 42mm I guess. We have special abilities. Now, everyone who can read is clearly at an advantage here. In this case, if there is only a single model remaining, its speed is increased by 2, which means it can move much further. There's also the ancillary carapace, which means you can reroll failed armor rolls for this unit. And then we have what the unit is capable of in every single phase. Now, in StarCraft 2, the tabletop miniature game, there will be 3 different phases for every turn. And instead of going one player then the other with all of their units, they will be able to move one unit, or assault with one unit, or combat with one unit, and then the other player is going to do the same in their movement phase until one of those 2 decide to pass. The first one to pass is the first one to go in the next phase, which results in a game of chicken. In the first phase, the movement phase, the units will be able to move. Now, in the case of this Hydralisk, it is also able to use Borrow Ambush, or it can decide to stay stationary, which means it can make an additional evade roll. In the next phase, the Assault phase, is where units use their range abilities, or decide to charge, which means closing the gap, initiating a melee attack. This Hydralisk also has an ability which requires a trigger, which is denoted in yellow as reaction. There is also an additional requirement, which is having the Hydralisk then in your army list. There are also the usual stats. RNG means range in inches. A is the rate of attack, which means how many dice are going to be rolled. Hit is which outcome of the dice needs to be rolled in order to hit the enemy. In this case, you need a 3 or higher. And then how much damage it deals. In this case, it deals 2 damage. And then there's the third phase, which is the combat phase, which is usually melee attacks. In this case, range M means melee. Then we have the search keyword. A surge is an additional throw of a dice, in this case a d3, which can only be used against certain units, in this case light and armor. The dice is thrown in addition to the usual dice, and its effect is basically annulling an successful armor save throw. And that is about it. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below.